Welcome to the John and Heidi Show podcast.
John and Heidi.
Here's John and Heidi.
Thanks for listening to the John and Heidi Show this weekend. Hey, baby, how you doing?
I'm okay. How are you?
Very good. I've got a guest coming up later in the program. Going to be talking with Dr. Pawan Grover about the 3 myths of the opiate crisis. And I'm excited to chat more about this. The more I know about the opiate crisis, the more concerned I am. It's where people are getting hooked on drugs, and it's not good stuff. So be listening for more details on that. Hey, did you know I've got a couple of quotes for you, Heidi?
Okay.
The Saturday, March 25th quote is, "We learn wisdom from failure, much more than from success. We often discover what we'll do. We often discover what we'll do by finding out what we'll not do, and probably he who never makes a mistake never made a discovery." Samuel
Agreed.
Smiles. So there you go. And then the Sunday, March 26th quote is, "Fearlessness is like a muscle. I know from my own life that the more I exercise it, the more natural it becomes to not let my fears run me."
Love that.
Ariana Huffington. So there you go.
Love it.
And did you know that Steve Martin was a cheerleader?
I did.
I didn't know that.
I did know that.
Oral Roberts and Steve Martin and Raquel Welch, they were all, it says, what do they have in common? They were all cheerleaders. Now we know.
John and Heidi.
Today is a special day, Heidi. Do you know what today is?
What is today, John?
Thought you'd never ask. Let's do the whole darn weekend. Saturday, March the 25th, Be Mad Day, Earth Hour, not to be confused with Earth Day, that's something different. Endometriosis March Day, International Day of Remembrance of the Victims of Slavery and the Transatlantic, International Day of Solidarity with the Detained and Missing Staff Members, National Day of Celebration of Greek and American Democracy, National Medal of Honor Day, Old New Year's Day, Pecan Day, Tolkien Reading Day, and Velgendagen, also known as Waffle Day. And then Sunday, the 26th, Legal Assistant Day, Make Up Your Own Holiday Day, Mothering Sunday, Purple Day, 26, whatever that means, and then Spinach Day. So we got all of those things going on. What a busy weekend.
It is.
And a lot of those have really long names, like really long names. So get out there and celebrate, but make sure you got time to say what it is you're celebrating. It might take a while.
John and Heidi.
Hey, it's John and Heidi. Join us for 80s in the Sand, a week-long 80s event this November 11th through the 18th in beautiful Punta Cana in the Dominican Republic.
Meet and listen to 80s bands like Loverboy, Starship, Howard Jones, and many more.
Plus, meet 80s icons from the movies like Anthony Michael Hall, Andrew McCarthy, and several others.
Get all the details at 80sinthesand.com.
Use promo code RADIO to get a $200 immediate refund per person.
Book your week-long 80s vacation now at 80sinthesand.com.
You know it's true because you heard it on the radio. 911 operators get some unusual calls. And I think this one would probably fit into the category of an unusual call, Heidi.
Okay.
A guy on a cell phone dialed in to say, hey, I fell asleep in a trash container and I just woke up. I'm in a garbage truck. And I think it's about to compact its load.
Yikes.
Yeah, that call really came in to police in Oak Park, Michigan. That's just outside of Detroit. An officer saying the guy didn't know where he was. So they're like, how do we figure out which garbage truck? So as police began checking on garbage trucks, they lost contact with the man whose cell phone battery died. But in the nick of time, one officer spotted a truck that was stopped with the driver compacting the load. The officer banged on the side, and somebody responded with a bang back. The driver emptied the trash into a parking lot, and out fell a man who said he had been looking for bottles to collect the deposit. Amazingly, he wasn't hurt. He fell asleep when he was in there.
Wow.
In Michigan, they've got a bottle deposit. You know, there's some states you get, and they, not all do that, but in Michigan, they got a decent one, I believe. I think it's 10 cents. So he was in there looking for some bottles and dozed off. Bad idea to doze off inside of a dumpster, but the garbage man picked him up and dumped him inside.
Wow.
So, yeah, that's not good. Well, you know it's true because you heard it on the radio.
John and Heidi.
The John and Heidi Show is brought to you in part by the Keystone Treatment Center.
This is your brain, and this is your brain on drugs. We share silly stories here on the program, but addiction is no joke. If you or someone you know suffers with an addiction to drugs or alcohol, make today the day you seek help.
Call toll-free 844-204-1055.
That's a toll-free number. Again,
844-204-1055.
And this is your brain on drugs. A little over a week ago, we had this special day called St. Patrick's Day. And it's a lucky day for a lot of people, but it was not a lucky day for a man in Georgia. 21-year-old Jody Bryan Minor was at Dingus McGee's Bar in Statesboro, Georgia. First of all, I got to just stop for a second. Dingus McGee's Bar is the kind of place I would like to go check out.
I would love to go to that place.
I think I'd wear a t-shirt that says, I've been to Dingus McGee's Bar. That's just a fun name. Okay, back on point now. He found a checkbook while he was there. Well, the luck of the Irish. Wasn't really on his side, though, because he decided to use the checks to pay for his bar tab. Seems that he never considered that the person who lost the checkbook might be in the bar. Guess who it was? It was the bartender.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, the arresting officer noted that Jody was, quote, extraordinarily intoxicated, end quote, and his dad had to pay the delinquent $129 bar tab. $129 for this guy to get tipsy on St. Patrick's Day. I bet he was pretty tipsy. That's a pretty steep bar tab.
John and Heidi.
Now your moment of duh. 25-year-old Brent Brown of Newcastle, Delaware, robbed an 18-year-old Domino's delivery driver while she was out delivering pizza. She arrived at the door. Brent and two of his buddies surrounded her and took her cash and 2 pizzas. Then Brent felt bad, so he decided to call her on his own cell phone and ask her out on a date. She turned him down, but was happy to turn over his cell phone number to the police. They made really, really quick work of tracing him down and picking him up. Of course, didn't take them long for him to give up his 2 buddies either. So,
wow.
What a knucklehead. Don't do that. Don't rob some delivery driver. And then if you do, you certainly don't call and ask her out on a date. I mean, that's just dumb.
The scoop of the day is brought to you by Wells Blue Bunny. If you want delicious ice cream, be sure to look for the Blue Bunny. Sure to have your favorite flavors. Learn more at bluebunny.com.
Now your scoop of the day. Next week, I guess that's this coming week, Wells Fargo will become the first major bank to upgrade all of their ATMs so you can use your cell phone to withdraw money rather than just having the debit card. Is that a good idea?
Probably not.
They're going to be the first one all around the nation to try it out, so I guess we'll find out. Would you like to travel in time, Heidi?
No.
I think I would.
I have no desire.
There's some things that I'd like to do. I think it'd be cool to meet some people that are no longer with us. But if you like breaking news and history, a new app is called Time Bound, and it's like time travel, Heidi. It's an app for learning about the past in a cool way. It allows you to follow important historical events hour by hour, minute by minute. You can join the Titanic on her maiden voyage.
That's kind of cool. That I would like to do, I think.
You can witness the hunt for Jack the Ripper. You can see the first landing on the moon. You can experience the first Woodstock Festival. Dozens of other thrilling stories. Some events, such as the first space flight, the last few hours or days for other things like World War II. And think of this as like Twitter or a New York Times breaking news alert for historical events.
Yeah, that's kind of cool. I like that.
Right
idea.
now, it's like they're working on it. It says it's through Kickstarter right now. So, but it's called Time Bound. I think that sounds fun. I'm going to have to check that out.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. I love that.
Wacky but true. I always like it when it says that right in the headline. Because it's usually pretty good. Cops find pot in driver's rear end. Oh, no. Florida State Trooper tried to stop a car about a window tint violation. As the trooper followed the driver, tossed something from the window, which lodged in the trooper's grill. When the backup arrived, they were able to stop the car. That's when they discovered the thing that got stuck. It was a bag of marijuana. When they frisked the driver, they found another bag. It was poking out his rear end. He was trying to hide it. He also had an open beer, and that was in the center console. The driver was not wearing a seatbelt either. So I'm glad that they threw that part in. We needed that.
Wow.
Robert Downey Jr. signed on to be the new Dr. Dolittle in The Voyage of Dr. Dolittle, the story of an eccentric physician who lives with animals and talks to them. Oh. Rex Harrison and Eddie Murphy have also starred in this role.
That breaks my heart.
The character of the doctor was created back in the 1920s by children's author Hugh Lofting. So Robert Downey Jr. is now doing kids' movies.
That is always the kiss
beginning of the end.
Death for an amazing actor.
It is. Usually it's like the beginning of the end for them.
Oh, that just kills me because I
That's too
like
bad.
him a lot, and I'm going to hate to see him go, but
Well,
he's going to go.
hopefully- You never know. Maybe he'll pull through.
I
Heidi. You
doubt,
just never know.
I doubt it.
In Italy, a guy held up a post office. First of all, is that a good place to rob? Why would you rob a post office?
Yeah, how much could they possibly
I don't
have?
know. Maybe they have more money in Italy. I have no clue. But I don't even. We were in the post office the other day. I didn't see a single person with cash. Everybody was using debit cards.
card.
So I don't know. Anyway, in Italy, a guy held up a post office. Postal employees quickly locked the door after the man fled and watched in amazement as he got into his car, sat there for a moment, and then ran back to the door. Finding it locked, he began to shout to them to please let him in. He left his car keys inside. He was still at the door banging, trying to get in when the police pulled up and said, "Hey, you don't need those keys? Because we're going to give you a ride."
Oh, that's fantastic.
Oh, what a knucklehead. That is just dumb. Joe Creary from Stranger Things is starring in a Domino's pizza ad that takes its cues from the 1986 comedy Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Domino's ad recreates a scene where Ferris Bueller, also known as Matthew Broderick in real life, races home in an attempt to stay out of trouble. He traverses an obstacle course of hedges and lawns, sunbathing women, and a trampoline. If you'd like to see this fun video, I've got a link to it on our Facebook page. Facebook.com.
I would like to see that
You
one.
haven't seen it?
No.
Well, what are you doing over there? Come on over and let's watch it. Stick around. We got more fun stuff on the way on the John and Heidi Show.
John and Heidi.
Radio advertising works. When it's done right, it works even better. There are many things you can do to get a better response, and shouting sale really isn't the best thing, believe it or not. Did you know that when you put words to music, they're 9 times more memorable? If you're trying to get people to remember your company, consider a jingle. We work with one of the very best jingle companies in the business, and we'd love to use music to help you grow your company. Learn more and hear examples at RadioReallyWorks.com. That's RadioReallyWorks.com.
John and Heidi.
Thank you so much for listening to the John and Heidi Show. We've got a guest today that's going to be talking about something that's actually really near and dear to me because I know this is such an important topic when we talk about the opioid crisis. And we've got a medical correspondent, Dr. Pawan Grover, joining us right now. Dr. Grover, how are you, sir?
I'm good, John. How are you?
Very, very good. Now, the crisis in America with opiates, this is pretty complicated, but there's some myths out there as well, aren't there?
There are. There's actually 3 common myths that people have. And so to really address this problem, we first need to understand it. Kind of like if you're a doctor taking care of a cancer patient, we need to know the exact diagnosis objectively without a political bent, so we'll know exactly how to treat the patient, how to get rid of a certain disease process. And same thing we need to do for this problem.
Now, I'm reading some of the statistics here. In the United States, the CDC says that since 2000, the rate of deaths from opiate drug overdose has increased 200%. That's a big number. Is that accurate?
That's an accurate number. Now, there's some further statistics. That goes up to 2014. And from 2014 to now, there's even some more alarming statistics that we'll get into a little bit later. But that is very accurate, yes.
That's such a concern because this is something that, for people that are not familiar with this crisis, how did this all get started? How did this opiate drug problem become an issue in the United States?
So first of all, we have to understand, when we are looking at these statistics, under the CDC, we have to know which of the drugs are causing this kind of problem. And if you look at it, it's a little, we might have a tendency to misunderstand because a lot of people think that when we talk about the opiate crisis, it's all due to doctors prescribing pain medications and people overdosing. And there is that. But if you look at the CDC, how they label it, under their prescription drug overdoses that they calculate, and that number that you introduced, they have percent of people who overdose on prescription opiates from doctors. But they also include illegal street heroin under that same title. And fentanyl, which is a synthetic morphine, both off the street on fentanyl. And if they look at the rate of increase up to 2014, 80% of that rise was due to heroin. So, and from the last 2 years, heroin has quadrupled. So we're actually dealing a lot with heroin, which is an illegal street drug. And as a matter of fact, the prescribing by doctors and overdoses is going down on the prescription side. So that's the first myth we have to clear up, that this is all due to medications that doctors prescribe. Because even their own CDC, they're including heroin in that list.
So that would be myth number 1, that it's not all from doctor prescriptions. What would myth number 2 be?
Myth number 2 believe that we can stop this heroin crisis and medication overdoses by stopping doctors from writing pain medication, right? And let's just look at that for a while. Now, if we just pull back the curtain of big medicine, let me tell you what's been happening over the last couple of years. Years ago, there was a big push where we were under-treating pain. You know, even cancer pain were not being treated. So there was a big push to try to improve our, pain management, basically. And we kind of overshot that. It went to, another extreme where doctors prescribed, I believe, too much inappropriate. There were less regulations. And, that led to some of the overdoses. Now, I think that's been the pendulum has been swinging back in the other direction for several reasons. One, and it did a good thing a couple of years ago when they took hydrocodone, which is Vicodin, and they changed the classification where you couldn't just phone it in. You had to have like a triplicate, which is a in-office prescription. You couldn't be phoned in. That, I think, has actually done a lot of good because it brought down the overprescribing of those medications. The government also, with the regulations, have been cracking down on these pill mills. These are mills that basically people give out narcotics and they get cash in between. A lot of those are being shut down. And also just the publicity around the opiate crisis has scared a lot of doctors. Even now I have doctor friends who are surgeons and they're afraid to write pain medications after surgery because they're being vilified so much. So we have to be also careful that we don't swing the pendulum too much because there is a subset of patients where medications are helpful. And it's interesting, in some cases we don't know the number. If somebody's taking pain medication legitimately and we shut the doctors down from using it, then now some of them are going and getting heroin off the street because it's cheaper and available and they can't get it from the doctor. The people that were addicted to medications, they're going to, can't get it from the doctor, they were going to go on the street anyway. So we have to look at that category so we don't overshoot and hurt a population of patients that need it and then were then driven to, much more dangerous heroin. So that's the second myth we've got to.
What would the third myth be then?
The third myth is that we can stop this crisis or fix this crisis by more money for rehabs, for the reversal medication, which is Narcan, and more resources. And the reason that's a myth is because, think about what happened. Let me tell you why the heroin crisis exploded really after around 2015 onwards. The numbers have been kind of overwhelming. Years ago, we have to look at either the heroin that was on the street was black tar, and you had the only way you could take it, or the primary way to take it, is as we've seen in the pictures, in movies where they put the rubber band in the arm, that the needle in, and they mix that, right? That's the direct image. Now, the new heroin on the market is very pure, and it's in a powdered form that can be snorted. So one thing is very cheap. So people that maybe had an aversion to needles and that image, it basically, to give you an analogy, remember the movie TV series Breaking Bad?
I've heard of it. I've never watched it, but I've heard of it.
So it was a chemist who was dying of cancer, and he went into the meth business. But since he was a chemist, he introduced a very pure version of meth on the market called blue meth. And he kind of took over the market because it was cheaper and it was so potent. So that is really what's happening now. Now the question is, heroin cannot be produced in the U.S. It's very complicated. So you have sources in South America and Mexico that are bringing in, but another not well talked about is, guess what is the world's biggest producer of heroin? John, you have any idea?
I have no idea.
It's Afghanistan.
No kidding.
Afghanistan, no kidding, supplies 90% of all the heroin in the world. As a matter of fact, in Canada, they did a study where 90% of their heroin was from Afghanistan. So we have to be aware of all sources. And in this case, you have to knock out the source because it's not one that our resources can keep up, right? We can't keep up with the level of overdoses that are happening. So we have to cut off the source, is the point, wherever that's coming in from. And then the final thing, there's another. Fentanyl is a synthetic morphine, 50 to 100 times stronger than morphine. People actually in this country now, instead of meth labs, they're buying or ordering the chemicals for this fentanyl from overseas. It's coming in the mail. And so they're basically cutting it here. And one of the problems is, because they're not chemists, they're cutting it with heroin, which is sometimes causing the overdose. There was a story lately about a lady who was getting Xanax, which is an anti-anxiety medication, and they couldn't get it from the doctor. She got it on the street, and it was laced with the fentanyl, and she died instantly because it's not an exact process. So, the warning when you get medications off the street now is they're cutting very potent things in it, and maybe, they're not cutting it right because a drug dealer doesn't want to kill their client, but it's happening inadvertently because of it's not an exact science when they're mixing these things.
So now those are the different myths that we have there. What are, as an average person, what can I do to protect my family? Are there things that I should be doing to make sure that we don't go down this path?
Yes. So one thing is one of the victims of and that's kind of increasing over the last couple of years, is when people are on medications legitimately for it. The kids are sometimes getting into their cabinets and taking the medications and overdosing. So if you are taking pain medications, you have to make sure that you lock up those medications, because there was a recent study showing that most parents are not doing that. And as a result, kids are getting into it, so that'd be one thing. Two, there's a whole section we could talk about how chronic pain in this country is not really well treated. We tend to go, because we're not getting the right diagnosis, off MRIs and CAT scans, but that's a whole separate thing. But I think, as far as what we can do today for people listening to this, is if you are on some pain medication problem, lock it up so that your kids don't get it. And be careful with mixing these things with other medications, because what usually will happen is a patient will be on, let's say, a pain medication. Another doctor might be giving some sort of what's called a benzodiazepine, which is like a Valium, and then the mixture of that, sometimes with alcohol, causes inadvertent overdoses. So we have to be very careful when we're on medications like this.
So take only as directed and make sure you keep it protected.
That's the first thing that we can do, at least to protect ourselves and our kids. And there is good things coming out in regulation, but we also, as a society, have to be careful that we don't overreact and stop people who legitimately need medication. And we don't interfere with that doctor relationship, because that lead some cases leading people to heroin. In other cases, the quality of life, it causes all sorts of things. So we've got to approach it very methodically.
Again, our guest today is Dr. Pawan Grover. And Dr. Grover, is there a place online that people can go to maybe find out a little more about all this?
Well, there's several sites. On my medical website, I have a lot of educational videos about how to treat chronic pain, how MRIs and X-rays don't show us where the root cause is, and what chronic pain, why we have it. So you can go to my website, innovaspine.net, just to get that educational kind of component about chronic pain.
And what is that website once again?
Innovaspine.net, so that's INOVO spine.net. And like I said, that will have information on education. Actually, I have nothing to sell, no book to push. My passion is I'm a patient advocate. And I'll tell you why. A long time ago, my brother, who was my youngest brother, I was on call on the code team, and they brought him in, and I coded him. And unfortunately, he died. So it changed my, because I got, really understood what patients and families go through. So, like I said, I don't have anything to sell. I'm passionate about patient advocacy.
Well, I am so sorry to hear about your loss. That's terrible. But thank you for doing what you're doing. It's amazing that you're taking a stand and saying, hey, somebody's got to help, and that's going to be me. So thank you.
Thank you, John.
Again, our guest today, Dr. Pawan Grover, and we talked about the myths of the opiate crisis. Thanks for joining us on the John and Heidi Show.
John and Heidi.
Many people go to college, but when they graduate, they've racked up a ton of debt. Not everyone, though. Matthew Einstone saved over $70,000 on a top-rate education. Then, after everyone wanted to know how he did it, he built a system to show you how to do it, too. Learn how you can use his system for yourself or for your kids. Go to freeeducationuniversity.com. Watch a few videos there for free. Sign up now and get a free 60-minute private consultation with Matthew. That's freeeducationuniversity.com. Use promo code radio20 to save 20%.
John and Heidi.
Fun fact for you, Heidi.
What's that, John?
These are all kind of along the same lines, like myths and whatnot. But a fun fact, a chicken can live without its head. That's true.
It cannot.
It can, too. A chicken can live without its head. Fun,
It cannot.
It can too. I've got the info right here.
Okay,
It says
just
it's
because
true.
you read it online doesn't mean it's true.
It's
how
true.
how it's supposed to? So what? You can keep a headless chicken as a pet and it'll still lay eggs and stuff?
Okay.
No way.
You can Google it when we get done. Fun
Yeah.
fact for you, Heidi.
Liar.
It's true.
What's that, John?
I'm going to only get through like two
Go
of
ahead.
these.
Keep telling us some more ridiculous BS. That's
Fun
fine.
fact for you. A
What's
falling cat will always land on its feet. That is true. A falling cat will always land on its
that?
feet.
Not if you slam it on the ground.
Yeah, that's not a falling cat. That's a throwing cat. Fun fact for you, Heidi.
What's that, John?
Yawning is contagious.
Yes,
I
it
know.
is.
And you ready for another fun fact?
Sure.
A fun fact for you, Heidi. A penny drop from the top of the tall building will not kill a pedestrian. That's one of the things where they say that if you drop a penny from the Empire State Building, it'd kill somebody. No.
Well, if you drop a headless chicken,
Yeah, then that would probably not be
will
so.
it still be alive?
No. Couple of fun facts for you this weekend.
John and Heidi.
This is Richard Lustig, the world's first and only 7-time lottery game grand prize winner. Since I endorsed Lottolicious, I have won something every single draw. They do all the work. You don't have to worry about running to the store to buy your tickets. They take care of all that. So if you're looking for the best way to play the lottery, to give yourself the best chance of winning, go to radiolottopool.com and join today. Again, that website is radiolottopool.com.
John and Heidi.
Thanks for listening to the John and Heidi Show this weekend. I have 5 steps, Heidi. 5 steps to being a better husband from MSN.
Oh.
Do I need to read these, do you think?
I don't know.
Am
Let's
I
see.
an awful husband?
You are not an awful husband.
Am I an okay husband?
You're a good husband.
Am I above average or below average?
You're probably above average.
Am I? All right.
Yeah.
Did you hear that, guys? She almost gave me a compliment. First thing, she's my wife, by the way. First thing, take an interest in something your wife is really passionate about. This can be especially tough for guys because we generally feel that if somebody else has interests that differ from ours, they're morons. But that's not always the case, guys. It's not an easy task, but show some interest in something that they're involved in. I have tried so many times to like drink wine because my wife likes wine. I just can't do it. There's some now that I'm like,
There's some
it's
that you're
all
getting
right.
to, and I'll get you there.
All right. Another thing, put the kids to bed. It says at least once a week, give her the night off, and you do the putting the kids to bed.
Yeah, that's
Let her-
our son is 20.
He
our
would love
daughter
that.
is
If I tuck him in at night,
16.
give him a little smooch on the forehead, he'd probably pull a
read
gun
him
on
a
me.
book.
He gets that from his mother. Read him a book. What would you like me to read to you tonight? Can you read the manual for this Ruger? Next one says, learn to apologize. This one is the easiest and the hardest. If you say you're sorry, you got to mean it too. Don't just say it. You got to absolutely got to mean it. Thank her for putting up with you every once in a while. Heidi, thank you for putting up with me.
You actually
Every
do
once in a
that
while.
quite often.
I know, because I have to. And then the last thing, I mean, seriously, it would be tough to live with me. I mean, you deserve a freaking trophy or something. I don't understand. It's tough stuff. And the final one on the list from MSN, these are what was it again? The 5 steps to becoming a better husband. The last one is clean up after yourself. If you're going to, have food and stuff, put the wrappers in the trash. Don't leave your stuff laying on the floor. Put that in the hamper. Maybe do the dishes once in a while. Come on, guys. Don't be a slob. You can do
You've
this.
even gotten a lot better
I know.
at that.
Hey, I'm working on it. See?
Yeah.
It's like I knew this list in advance.
You're above average.
All right. Thank you. And you're my above average wife.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to an above average radio show. It's the John and Heidi Show Weekend Edition.
John and Heidi.
Hey, it's John and Heidi inviting you to join us for a party in paradise.
This is a week-long event with 80s music from over a dozen awesome bands.
And 80s movie and TV icons like Anthony Michael Hall, Andrew McCarthy, and several others.
Get all the details at 80sinthesand.com.
Use promo code RADIO to get a $200 immediate refund per person.
We'll even get together to have some drinks with you.
Book your week-long 80s vacation now at 80sinthesand.com.
That's 80sinthesand.com.
John and Heidi.
If you're feeling a lot of stress in your life, you're supposed to unplug and get rid of the noise. It says if your work environment is noisy and loud, that could be the reason. Even if you're used to a lot of noise, loud sounds on the job increase stress. They keep you from staying focused and they decrease your motivation. In a recent study on the subject, they claim that people working in loud environments are less willing to make adjustments to their chairs and their workstations, which means more aches and pains for the person as well. So they're saying, turn it down a notch. I mean, if there's a bunch of noise in your office, maybe you should, turn your radio up and drown all that out. I think that's a good idea. You should turn it up really loud for the John and Heidi show. Everybody else around you will then know why you're laughing all day. Or maybe you're not laughing. I don't know. I know I'm laughing most of the time. Kill me. All right. Actually, Heidi cracks me up most of the time. Thanks for listening to the John and Heidi show this weekend.
John and Heidi.
If you eat slower, you'll stay leaner. I don't know.
We know this.
Do we know this?
How many times have we read this?
I don't know. It's the first time, I think. Researchers have discovered that eating too fast limits the release of two hormones that bring in the feeling of being full. And that leads to overeating. Most of us have hard time. It says most of us has heard. Most is it the weekend? Most of us have heard that eating fast can lead to overconsumption of obesity, and that is true. Dr. Alexander Kokonos, who headed the research at the Lyko General Hospital in Athens, Greece, said the warnings we are given as children that wolfing down your food will make you fat may, in fact, have a psychological explanation. End quote. There you go.
If you eat fast, you don't give your body time to tell you that you're full at the right time. So, yes, you're going to overeat.
That's probably my fault. That's what I do all the time. And I rush others, too. I'm like, come on, hurry up. Come on, snarf that down. Let's go. We got to go.
Let's go.
I'm always in a hurry. I need to just slow down a bit. Coming up, we got more fun stuff. That's on the way.
John and Heidi.
Many people go to college, but when they graduate, they've racked up a ton of debt. Not everyone, though. Matthew Einstein saved over $70,000 on a top-rate education. Then, after everyone wanted to know how he did it, he built a system to show you how to do it too. Learn how you can use this system for yourself or for your kids. Go to freeeducationuniversity.com. Sign up now and get a free 60-minute private consultation with Matthew. That's freeeducationuniversity.com. Use promo code RADIO20 to save 20%.
Now, nobody needs to tell you that hitting the gym has a ton of great benefits. We know that, right?
Right.
Making you healthier inside and outside. Now you can add another perk to your list. It helps your brain. Now, I'm sure there are people right now that are disagreeing with this. They know people who go to the gym that don't necessarily have a big brain. But take a listen to what researchers found. They say a good workout not only expands your muscles, but it also expands your mind, both literally and figuratively. Researchers from the University of California, Los Angeles, found a link between people who exercise regularly and the size of their brain as they age. Specifically, they found that the hippocampus, that's the part of the brain responsible for emotion and memory, that part was bigger and more active in exercisers. They also discovered that the fit folks were less likely to suffer from memory loss or Alzheimer's disease as they aged. So, what exactly does this mean for you, Heidi? When it comes to protecting and enhancing your brain, it's never too late to start sweating it out at the gym. That's what they're saying.
All righty.
So one more reason we should start using that gym membership.
Yeah.
I went there once. We've had a membership now since the end of December.
Yeah.
We've driven by that gym numerous times to go to a restaurant. I've went there one time and used it, and Heidi still hasn't. So
I'm working all the time.
Can we make
I work literally all the time. It's hard for me to leave and go anywhere.
All right. We'll find some time. We'll squeeze it in somewhere. Thanks for listening to the John and Heidi Show Weekend Edition. We've got some good news on the way.
John and Heidi.
This portion of the John and Heidi Show is brought to you by the John and Heidi Show. That sounds kind of funny, but it's true. Go to your local radio station and ask them to start carrying the John and Heidi Show. Here's the best part. They can carry the show for free. They play a couple commercials, but it doesn't cost them anything every month. So if you know a radio station that could use a little bit of help, send them our way. Send them to johnandheidishow.com. Again, johnandheidishow.com. We would love to do a radio program in your community. Then you could listen to the podcast and listen to us on the radio.
John and Heidi.
Always like to share some good news as we wrap this program up. So I've got some good news for you this weekend. Here's a headline. Elderly man can't buy groceries. That's when the cashier says 6 words that have gone viral. You ready for this, Heidi?
I'm ready.
Have you seen this at all?
I think so.
It says an act of kindness at a Dollar General in Oklahoma has gone viral. Facebook user Tim McKellar wrote on his page recently how he, quote, witnessed one of the most impressive things end quote, and wanted to share his story with friends. The post featured a photo of his receipt with the store's address on it and was liked more than 1,500 times and received more than 400 comments. Love What Matters even reposted it to their Facebook page. And it's really kind of a neat thing here. It says, while shopping at the store, this was back on Thursday the 16th, so the day before St. Patty's Day, he watched an elderly veteran struggle to pay for his groceries. He went to run his card, but they couldn't make the transaction, and he said he forgot his PIN number. A few tries later, a lady in line tried to help the guy swipe his card. Still, the transaction was declined. What happened next was the real cool inspiration. That's when the cashier, Jacob Whitman, pulled out his own wallet and told the lady, go ahead and scan this card. And it ended up working with no problem. How cool is that?
That's awesome.
Everybody was in shock, especially the older gentleman wearing his veteran's hat. Uncertainty
that's awesome.
had just transpired. Uncertain of what just transpired, he inquired if Whitman just purchased his $20 worth of groceries. He said, yes, sir. And he says, you don't owe me a dime. Those last 6 words made this story even more touching.
Oh.
Isn't that neat? So what a really cool story. And this guy, he's working at a Dollar General, so it's not like this is a multimillionaire that's saying, hey, I got all kinds of money and I can spare it. This is a young man who that $20 probably means a lot to him.
Yeah.
But it's so awesome that he said, you know what, I'm going to help this guy. We go above and beyond all the time to say thank you to veterans because we absolutely appreciate the service they have. I think that I would have done that. I hope I would have done that.
I would have done that.
I just think
absolutely would have done that.
Story.
I have many times paid for a veteran's coffee order. If they're in line in front of me, I've said, I've got this. I want to take care of your coffee. Yeah. I absolutely love and appreciate our military and our law enforcement more than they would ever know.
Well, we appreciate them a bunch. So if you'd like to read this story and get all the details, because again, we have to speed read through things here to get it all on the radio, you can check out all of the details at facebook.com/John and Heidi Show. Time to say goodbye, Heidi.
Goodbye, Heidi.
Goodbye, everybody. Have a great weekend. Thanks for listening.
Time now for a bonus break on the John and Heidi Show podcast.
John and Heidi.
Thank you for listening to the John and Heidi Show. This time of year, a lot of people are getting this little itch. It's called spring fever. We want to go do something. We want to get out of the house. We've been cooped up all winter, and it's time to go somewhere fun. And we've got a travel expert to help us with some ideas right now. We have Dave McNamee joining us. How are you, sir?
I'm doing very well, thanks. How are you, John?
Fantastic. Now, how long have you been with Expedia? Have you been there quite a while?
I've been with Expedia for about 7 years now.
Now, how does one end up getting to become a travel expert? That just sounds like a lot of fun.
Lots of trips across the country, and working with a great team of analysts and experts that give us all this great data that we're going to talk about today about spring break travel.
That's awesome. So now, when is the best time, if someone's planning on booking a trip, they're going to go somewhere, when is the best time to do it? Should they wait till right before they go and see what's out there, or should they plan in advance? Is there kind of a sweet spot when it comes to that?
You know what? There is. We partnered with a group called the Airlines Reporting Corporation to determine the best day to book airplane tickets. And in general, we found Sundays yield the lowest average ticket prices. And then from there, we looked into how far in advance a traveler should book, and we found sort of the magic number to be around 21 days out.
All right. So a little less than a month out, and try to do it on a Sunday.
Yep.
Very nice. And now, where are the really popular hot spots for people to go this spring? Are there places that are just kind of consistently the best places?
Yes, we saw a few places like Cancun and Punta Cana for the beach lovers. Those always happen to be the popular destinations. Orlando, to go down to see Disney, Las Vegas, taking some shows on the Strip, and New York for some spring sightseeing are also pretty popular this year.
That's awesome. Now, if somebody's planning a perfect trip, sometimes that can be a little stressful. What can we do to make it a little easier when we're planning that trip?
The biggest thing is just plan ahead. I like to have a pretty good sense of what my budget is going to look like in advance. Obviously, consider the booking time that we just talked about, Sundays and 21 days. If you're looking at hotels, strangely enough, we found that Sundays are also a great day to get deals on hotels as well.
Now, you were kind of talking there about the hotels and the different options that we have available. So when a person is planning their trip, when they're going to be booking, is it best to do, because, quite often on Expedia and on other sites, they have like package deals. Do you really save money with those, or is it better to kind of pick and choose the things that you want?
Well, that's the joy of packages. You can do both. You can, it's not really prepackaged in the sense. It's sort of like packaging your insurance, your car, your home together. You know, when we think about packaging, the simple act of picking your flight, your hotel, and, you know, adding in a car if you need one, booking it all together, you can save up to $600. I actually just booked a vacation to Europe with my wife, and we saved over $900 booking our flight and hotel together.
That's awesome. So if somebody listening is saying, you know what, I am ready to go somewhere nice, I am ready to get out of here, winter has not been so fun to me, and they want to go, where do they go to get more information on some of these hot spots we've been talking about?
John, they can head to Expedia.com for more.
Very nice. Well, I appreciate you taking the time. Thank you so much for chatting with me. And sometime I want to be like an honorary travel expert, and I don't want to do all the work. I just want you to send me somewhere nice. That's all. So
yeah, we can do that, John.
If you guys can line that up, we're good.
Sure thing.
Well, thanks again, Dave. Have a great day.
Take care. You too.
Again, Dave right there from Expedia, and they've got a lot of great places. So I think pretty much any destination you can imagine, wherever you want the destination to be, doesn't matter where you're going, doesn't matter where you're starting. I'm pretty sure they can get you from point A to point B. So check it out at Expedia.com. Thanks for listening to The John and Heidi Show.